friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams. Today we are going to do something a little bit different. For the last few months, every month I try to highlight a different type of book that's on my shelves. And this month I'm going to talk about thrillers, and I need your help. The thriller genre is not something that I read very often. I have very low tolerance for being afraid, but every once in a while I just need a kind of book that will be a page turner and draw me in, and I sometimes crave that intensity. However, there are a few things about thrillers that I don't love. I am never a fan of infidelity or adultery in books, and for some reason I feel like thrillers have a lot of that. That might just be kind of in my head. Since I don't read that many of them, it's not a statement that I can back up with proof. But another thing in thrillers that I don't love is anything to deal with spirituality or the occult or demonic influence or anything like that. I am not into reading about that because sometimes that feels like it could be a little bit real. And the third thing that I don't love that's very common in thrillers, that even the ones that I have read, is an unreliable narrator. Now that's not a deal breaker. The other two are kind of deal breakers. I won't really go for those books. I will read books with an unreliable narrator, but it's not my favorite. I just get so frustrated trying to figure out if I can believe and trust the narrator. And unfortunately in thrillers, that's very common. We have Gone Girl, unreliable narrator. Woman in Cabin 10, unreliable narrator. Girl on the Train, unreliable narrator. It's very, very common in thrillers to have this type of a narrator because it adds to this question of who done it and how did it happen and all of that. So what I'm going to do today is show you I have 12 thrillers that are on my shelves. I think I got pretty much all of the thrillers off my shelf. I'm going to show them to you, and I just want your help. Another thing that I'm in the middle of right now is going through my shelves and unhauling. Every once in a while I go through and pull off books that I just don't feel like are for me at this moment in time. So I kind of have 12 books here, and I'm wanting your help because many of these are very common or had been hyped at one point, and so they're pretty popular thrillers and I just haven't read them yet. But maybe I don't need to. Maybe one of these or two of these or three or four of these I can actually unhaul because either they have one of those things that I really don't like or they just aren't that good. Because I don't have a huge backlist of thrillers that I've read, I am not always sure if it's going to be something that I like. A couple thrillers that I have liked before I jump into these. I really liked Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. I really liked The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And recently I read No Exit, and even though that's a little more gory than I typically would read, I really liked the intensity of that book, and it didn't have any of those things that I don't care for. So with that in mind, here are the 12 books. I'm just going to give you a real quick synopsis. I didn't go too in-depth into what each one is about because with thrillers you don't really want to know too much, but I have a real quick synopsis, and you tell me down below if this is a book that you've read and loved, if you think it's something that I should keep on my shelves because I should read it. Maybe some of my October TBR will come from one of these. Help me out, please. So here we go. Without any further ado, I've rambled on enough. The first one I have is I See You by Claire McIntosh. I have read another one by her and I did really enjoy it. In this one, a woman sees her own picture in the classified ads. It's a little bit grainy, and all that's with it is a website and a phone number, and she just finds that very odd. She did not put the ad out. Finds it even more odd when over the next few days she sees pictures of other women in the classified ads without any kind of explanation. So I don't know what happens if these women start disappearing or dying, or if there's just a stalker. I'm not really sure, but I'm curious. Let me know. I also have Final Girls by Riley Sager. I did read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager and really enjoyed that one. There's this kind of group of girls who survive some kind of massacre, I guess. They're like the last one that somehow got away. They never actually come in contact, but then one of these girls who was a final girl actually dies, potentially murdered, and the others get together and try to, I don't know, figure out what happened or something along those lines. Secrets, lies, all that stuff. Curious about that. Simone St. James is a pretty popular psychological thriller author recently. This one is The Broken Girls, and this takes place kind of in two timelines. In the 1950s, there's this boarding school where a girl mysteriously disappears, and then many years later, 64 years later or so, someone purchases this boarding school and is remodeling it and like kind of bringing it back to life. I guess one of the women involved in that, her sister went missing or something. An unsolved murder is involved. I don't know. I've heard that this one is pretty gothic, perfect for fall, and possibly some haunting, so maybe some kind of ghost action. I don't know. I have two from Ruth Ware. I have The Lying Game and The Death of Mrs. Westaway. I did read The Woman in Cabin 10 and did not like it at all. And mainly because that narrator was so unreliable. And I kind of figured out what was going on, and I felt that the climax was anticlimactic in The Woman in Cabin 10. So I really didn't like the ending of that one. So I've been pretty hesitant to pick up something else by her, but I have heard good things about this one, mixed things about this one. Is Ruth Ware an author I should just get rid of, or should I give one or both of these a try? I don't know. Part of me wants to give Ruth Ware another try, but I just am not sure it'll be for me. I don't know. This one I heard about, Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I heard about from April at Getting Hugga with It. She just loves this book. And in this one, a woman wakes up in the hospital unable to speak or communicate in any way. She doesn't know what happened to her and why she's there and how she got there, all that stuff. Her husband and sister are both I don't know if they come at the same time, but they both are potentially involved with whatever happened to her, and she's trying to figure out what happened to her. But also she potentially, I mean, the first little thing here says, my name is Amber Reynolds. There are 3 things you should know about me. I'm in a coma. My husband doesn't love me anymore, and sometimes I lie. So that makes me curious if this is an unreliable narrator, but I'm also really intrigued by it because April really, really loved it. So should I read it? Help! I have heard Lindsay from Lindsay's Little Library talk about this one, and she said it was super creepy. So part of me is like, oh no, and part of me is like, ooh. This is The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon, and in this one, I think we also follow 2 timelines. There's 3 friends, 2 sisters and a friend who play together when they're young for one summer, and then something happened that summer. Whatever happened that summer affects them into their lives, at least these 2 sisters. And then they find out that the third girl, the friend, and her family all die, and it's potentially the friend's fault. Like, she killed her family and then killed herself and left a message for these 2 sisters, and which kind of forces them to revisit the past and what happened. And it sounds like it could be really good. Lindsay really loved this one and wants to read more from this author, so I'm curious, very curious. I have The Girl Before by J.P. Delaney, and this one involves an apartment. I love, a lot of these involve like an old house or an old building. This one involves kind of an apartment where 2 different women live. The second woman finds out that the first woman actually died, either in the apartment or because of things that happened in the apartment, and then she starts making some of the same choices and same decisions and experiences some of the same consequences, I guess. So it sounds kind of interesting, different. I don't know. Have you read this one? Fierce Kingdom by Jen Phillips. I did hear a lot of mixed reviews about this one when it first came out. And it's about a mother and a son who are visiting a zoo. They're about to leave, and the mother sees something happen, forcing her to run back into the zoo and then hide, and on the run for 3 hours in the zoo. And I believe this whole thing happens over the course of just a couple hours. So interesting. Very interesting, but I'm not sure if it's for me. I have The Winter Sister by Megan Collins. This one also involves sisters, obviously, in the title. When they're 16, one of the sisters goes missing for a few days, and then her body is found a couple days later, and the murder went unsolved. And then in kind of a more present-day timeline, the surviving sister either uncovers some secrets or kind of has to revisit what happened to her sister. And some secrets come out when she goes back to take care of her ailing mother or something along those lines. You Are Not Alone by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I listened to a podcast where Sarah's Bookshelves Live, where Greer and Sarah were being interviewed. And that made me very interested to pick up a book from them just to see their writing style and how I love when authors write together and how does that work. It was super interesting to hear how they came together to start writing. So I picked up this one, I think from a Facebook swap group. But in this one we follow Shay, who's super lonely, loveless, not liking her job. And she's kind of wanting to live the life of these Monroe sisters who seem to have everything together. A great group of friends, great jobs, great romance life. The sisters, on the other hand, not everything is quite as glamorous as it seems, and they would kind of rather have the life of Shay, who is more independent and alone and not having others to dictate anything about her life. So I'm not sure what happens, if there's any kind of a murder or anything. This is an ARC copy, so there's no such synopsis anywhere. I just kind of picked up that information based on some of the blurbs that are on here. But yeah, interested to read from this author duo. Have you read anything by them? What do you think? And the last one I have is Before She Knew Him by Peter Swanson. Peter Swanson is a very popular thriller author that I just haven't read from yet. In this one, a woman who has a bipolar syndrome, has some mental health issues, but she becomes convinced that her next door neighbor is involved with some unsolved mystery murder that she is kind of obsessed with. She sees something in his study that she's convinced is part of this unsolved murder. So she has all this fear, but then she wonders if she's having a psychological breakdown, which has happened to her in the past. So I'm very curious about this one too, but it does sound like it will have an unreliable narrator though, so maybe it's not the book for me. I don't know. So here's the stack. Let me know what you think about any of these, all of these. Which ones should I pass along? Which ones should I add to my unhaul pile? Which ones should I definitely read? Which ones should I put on my October TBR to be read as soon as possible? I would love to hear your thoughts about these books or any other thrillers that you've been loving lately that you think I might like, or ones to stay away from. Let's chat thrillers in the comments below. It's a very unique kind of a video because I just don't read that many of them. So I thought I'd branch out and try something new today, talk about something different, and yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts. I know some of you out there are huge thriller readers, so I especially want to hear what you think about these books and if you think it's for me. So let's chat in the comments below for sure. Down in the description, you will see lots of different ways to get a hold of me, get in touch with me, lots of ways that you can support me and my channel. And that is it for today. Give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be talking to you in another video very soon. Bye.